Juice Bar, end of February. We're rolling. Knicks reaction to the 76ers W in a look ahead. Next 5 games at Memphis, at Miami, at home against the Golden State Warriors will be an absolute spectacle.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Draymond Green in the building at Madison Square Garden. Then we go to LA to play the Lakers and the Clippers for the next 5 on the road. Let's talk about the Sixers game.
First game for Podcast P without a podcast, as we talk on a podcast.
And he played well.
And I had a feeling. Like, actually, Paul
Heavy
George.
life, podcast life. It's tough.
A lot of overhead.
A lot of grind.
But, I mean, that Sixers team, which I joked on pregame, a little too late to Nick Nurse back to health over here, a little play on words, and they just showed up with effort. And they had one guy with 4+ rebounds against your Bulls getting routed by 30+. So to come in the Garden, and we know from a betting perspective, situational dream for the Knicks to be off 2 L's, only 1 3-game losing streak all year with multiple days off. So it was a great betting spot.
Yeah.
Philly covers the spread, takes it to the very end. But, yeah, you saw it live. Talk to me.
Yeah, first half, it was inverse of what we've been seeing all year from the Knicks. They've been starting slow in the first quarter, and then they've been coming on in the third out of halftime. And it was the exact opposite against Philly. They came out really hot, played really good ball in the first half, and then faded in the second half. Jalen Brunson continues to answer the bell every single time it's necessary. That's just the bottom line.
Personal 9-0 run in the fourth.
No Cat was an indication to him. He knew what. No Cat and Jalen scoring 30 against a team with no backcourt defensive stoppers like the Sixers is the reason you have to gravitate that way if you're looking for a wager or what you expect when it comes to game flow. But, yeah, as you mentioned, 9-0 run in the fourth. He continues to answer the bell when necessary. Big three. Bridges played really well.
Incredible first quarter.
Especially in the first quarter, first half.
How about OG with 9 boards?
Yeah.
Like to see that.
Absolutely. Activity. Someone has to pick up that slack. Of course, we know Josh Hart, who had what?
16.
16 boards. So,
That's
classic.
Insane. It's insane.
It was,
impressive performance?
No.
You don't think so?
I wouldn't say impressive because if we're being honest.
Even with the Cat late scratch, though?
Even with the Cat late scratch, I wasn't impressed because
Like
they were down the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, and they let it slip away, and it was a lot of ISO, letting Tyrese Maxey get to the cup at will. It was a lot of different things that I wouldn't say were impressive, but a win is a win. They got the W, but you want to see them handle teams like this. A couple nights prior to, maybe it was a look-ahead situation where they have, we have the Bulls, and then we have to look ahead. We have Cleveland and Boston coming up, but they need OT to beat the Bulls.
Well, let me ask you, though. Do you feel like off of the Bulls win, they get crushed, obviously, on a road back-to-back, which as gamblers we know is a mountain to climb. Overtime, I mean, even in the NFL, when you have a week off to rest and you go to overtime and then you go on the road from home, it's a terrible spot. And the Knicks are going to Cleveland after extra ball, shorthanded because Hart was out those 2 games. I mean,
sure, okay, then that's fine. But now we have 2 full days off. You're in your building. You get the Sixers without Embiid. This should be a spot where it should look like the first half for the rest of the game. I'm nitpicking. It's a good W. Stack them up as we continue.
Well,
to get
I was
further
more
into the
curious.
year, but yeah,
Your
I
thoughts
wasn't impressed. It was a good win.
Do you think the national TV narrative of 0-7 against the Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavs is warranted? Because in the weeds, there's numerous back-to-back spots that were situational L's. Boston also. I mean, I just look at that and is it a real number when it comes to the playoffs? I mean, these teams that are all great lose games.
We'll
OKC.
name the 3 teams again. Say it again.
Thunder, Cavs, Celtics.
And what's interesting about the last 2 teams you named?
They're in the East?
Those are the teams that the Knicks are going to have to beat to potentially even get to just the Eastern Conference Finals. Forget about winning the East. We know they're going to have to go through one of those 2 to win the East. I was actually talking to our producer, Ben, about this coming in. If we were the Knicks, we're in the West, I would feel a lot more comfortable about them competing with the middling teams, the Rockets, Denver. I like our chances against them. If I'm being completely honest, right now, as we say this end of February, The Cavs and the Boston Celtics are just on a different level than where the Knicks are at, and I hope that we could get there. And there's plenty of time, as it's a perfect segue as we talk about Mitch Robinson expected to come back potentially against the Memphis Grizzlies on 2/28, which is the next ball game up here. We'll see what shakes. Then they have a couple of days off, 3-2 at Miami. Tibbs said after practice Tuesday, we've gone 50-something games without our starting center. Guys have done a really good job stepping in. Could we do better? I always believe we could do better. I mean, I think that's
very presidential.
Very presidential, very well said. How do you feel about, I guess my question, is there enough time, in your opinion, for Mitch to get acclimated and ready to go for the playoffs with, 25, 27 games left or whatever the number is?
I do. It's also an interesting question to take a forward step to almost work backwards. Are you still all out for the 2 seed to avoid a Boston or Cleveland in the second round? If you're okay with the 3 seed, then I think to answer your question, it's about integrating him slowly, methodically, and preparing for mid to late April. The question becomes, though, on a Tibbs-led team, that's very difficult to do.
We saw it last year. Tibbs is going to try to win as many games as he possibly can, and then wherever the seeding falls,
right,
that's where it'll be. It was 2 last year. They wanted to get 50 wins. They got it done to the chagrin of maybe a few Knicks fans, yeah? But this year, I just don't think it's like, I don't think they're catching those guys.
But let me ask you, because you grew up a Bulls fan, grew up a Lakers fan, spoiled sports fan bases. This Knicks fan base, and I do have a New York household I grew up with, so a lot of Knicks fans in my family, but back-to-back 50-year win season, Sean, is decades ago. So what is the goal off a 50? It's almost a good problem to have. Do you want to win as many games as possible, but potentially seeing what happened by the second round against the Pacers, you're losing guys troops.
You want to be healthy, and you want to be playing your best ball. However many wins that stacks up to be, or whatever seeding that lands you in, that's the spot you want to be as a locker room going into the playoffs, because the Detroit Pistons are nothing to sneeze at. That could be a potential 3-6 matchup. The Bucks, I actually like our chances against the Bucks, especially when Mitch gets back and acclimated, just guys that could bang with Giannis. And then when we talk about what's another team in the East that'll be potential 6?
I mean, Miami and Orlando are pesky.
Like Indiana. I don't really want to play the Pacers. So that first round is going to be tough either way. So
here's an interesting thought, though, because last year the Lakers tried to make a late surge, and they end up drawing the Nuggets first round. Shouldn't have been a first-round matchup, and they get dusted. I'm looking at this lineup here, and you make a good point about the Pistons. I mean, it's just interesting because there's almost bad spots sometimes the higher you go here based off of what – I mean, who would you rather play right now, Orlando or Detroit? Probably Orlando.
Yeah, but, that's been a tough matchup for the Knicks as well. But to close it off and close out the point about Mitch Rob, I think the impact – my only concern, I expect the impact to be great. He brings exactly what a lot of the things the Knicks are missing. I don't want everyone – I feel like I've mentioned this before. We're getting to the spot where it's like, well, Mitch Rob's coming back, and he'll solve – oh, that missed rotation? Well, when Mitch Rob gets back –
perimeter, three-point perimeter D?
Worst three-point defense in the league? Just Mitch will come back, and don't worry about it. So I just don't want – I want people's expectations to be tapered a bit. Let Mitch settle in, and as long as he gets 20 full games and can get up and running – going into the playoffs, they'll be in a really good spot. Let's talk about this next matchup.
Memphis.
The Knicks blew Memphis's doors completely off.
Yeah.
In the Garden at MSG. Me and you were there. We saw it. John Morant was a 0. He had 10 points. They won 143-106. Knicks starters outscored Memphis 91-61. Just an all-around really good game. They've had a couple games, the Knicks, this year where it's like, this is the team we're looking for. That game in Denver, where they scored like 140.
Oh, yeah, that 140.
Destroyed Jokic and the Nuggets. And
Kings game.
The King. Memphis was another one where it was like, man,
Yeah,
we
to
can
your
play
point,
ball like this.
they look good against the West.
Yeah,
in a lot of regards.
How do you feel about this matchup coming up? The Memphis Grizzlies at the Grindhouse in Memphis. It's one of the toughest places to play in the NBA.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup. It's a great interconference dance. Knicks 11-14 against teams above 500, 27-6 against teams under 500. Interesting note just on the league right now. There's only 6 teams with a positive win-loss record against teams 500 or better. But to your point, they looked excellent matchup-wise against Memphis. This is going to require a Ja, Jaren, Desmond Bane, big three. Give me at least 60 points to compete against this offense. Memphis is, I don't know, they're an interesting team to figure out. They've been a top 3 team in the West a lot of the year, but we're not really talking about them. If anything, it's Ja making headlines. He might get moved. And all they've really done is kind of take care of games that they should have.
Like 3-4, top 4 in the West throughout the entire year.
But do we look at him as a threat? I mean,
the only threats I see are the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics.
So you got at the same table. The Cavs are at the same table as Boston?
Look, going to Memphis is fun. It's a great idea. Like, let's go to Memphis and have fun and play Ja Morant and the Grizzlies. But, like, come playoff time, we're not going to see those dudes.
No, that's fair.
So this is just more about getting reps, getting guys back involved, getting Mitch back on the floor.
Yeah.
I just want to get better on perimeter D. Mitch will help with that. I want to be a little more physical. I think Mitch really helps with that. And people forget how physical and that team last year was nasty. Like, let's call it what it is. Like DiVincenzo, those guys, Randall, like him or not, nasty players, nasty style. And then they had Brunson that just got it done. They were a physical, nasty bunch with an angry head coach and an angry fan base that was just hungry for wins. That was why it all meshed. Some of that we hope eventually trickles over to this new look Knicks. And
so you need Mitch Rob to be Mitch Rob to be a little Jalen Carter defensive tackle mentality.
I would hope Mitch shows up and is like almost the enforcer. Like, I'm back. I'm cleaning up the offensive glass. The rim is now protected. Mikal, OG, you guys go hang out on the perimeter. Cat as well. You go do what you do. I got it down here. Nobody's getting easy buckets, and I'm cleaning up all the boards. That's what they miss, and that's why people are really excited about Mitch coming back.
For his career, per 36 minutes, Mitch averages a double-double, 12 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 4 fouls. So to the nastiness and presence you're talking about, that's what he brings.
Without question.
You think Cat can turn up defensively once Mitch comes? Like going against Edey and Jaren if Mitch doesn't play.
I mean, look.
Do you want to see him impose his will defensively?
Why did Minnesota go get Gobert? Cat doesn't play D. And as I've gotten older, I used to always do this thing like, Giannis needs to work on his jump shot. Cat needs to play better D. No, that's not what they do. All right? Cat, since he came into the league, hasn't played D. I'm not expecting him to show up in a Knicks jersey and play D. Giannis can't shoot. It's not what he does. So I'm not expecting him to all of a sudden show up and start shooting jump shots. So
is it D effort and jump shot skill, though? Like, is this an effort thing with Cat?
No, I wouldn't say.
He just doesn't have a defensive bone.
It's just not his game. It's just not his game.
On a Tibbs team, though, it's tough to settle.
It's not his game. It's not his game. It's not Brunson's game to play D. Luka doesn't play D.
A couple steals, though.
You understand what I'm saying? So I've kind of grown out of that. We're like, I want more from him on the defensive end. It's like, no, you go get him to come help Brunson on offense. That's what he's here for, number one. And let's fill out the rest of the roster to help his weaknesses. Team game.
Next 5, as you mentioned, Gold State, Lakers, Clippers, Miami, after Memphis, not in set order. What's the biggest win for him of those games? If they were to nab one they shouldn't, even though they're all winnable games.
I mean, Miami, because they're in the East. Like, I want to perform well against teams we're going to see in 6 weeks, 2 months. Like that. Those are the teams I want to play hard against. Going to LA and playing on primetime, really fun. Not as important to me versus teams in the East that we're going to bang along with. Last point here on Golden State. Pay the money. Do whatever you have to do to go see Steph Curry at MSG. I know it's expensive. I know it's going to cost you a lot of money. But there's not very many games left where Steph's going to be at the Garden. The Knicks are good. Golden State's now coming along. You get the added bonus of Jimmy Butler now being on the roster. You take it for granted, and next thing you know, these guys aren't around anymore, and it's like, damn, I didn't see Steph play.
Good point.
I didn't see Steph at the Garden. I know it's expensive. I know it's going to hurt for a little bit, but every time I've ever paid the top dollar to go to an event that I wanted to see, it's always been worth the cheese. Every single time. LeBron, concerts, whatever it is. I never got to see Kobe live because I always pushed it off. And I always said I'd catch him next time.
Yeah.
And it still eats me up to this day. So if you have the means, get the buddies, throw on the Knicks stuff, have a couple beers, get there early, watch Steph's pregame ritual. It'll all be worth it and be a lot of fun just because you never know when Steph's going to hang it up. And it's like, damn, I didn't get to see the best shooter of all time.
No, I'm with you. It's going to be an exciting next 5 for the Knicks. For more Juice Bar, make sure to check out the podcast wherever you get your audio platforms. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple, Google Play. Keep it rolling. More Juice Bar. Stay locked in.